Hang up. Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. Intel has told us there are at least 7.
Okay, I already see one. Give him. Okay.
They're the same picture.
Okay, so I know I'm gonna irritate some people with this video, but just bear with me because I'm gonna go through point by point and prove to you that you don't really like the character Pam Beesly Halpert. And this is in no way attacking the actress that plays her, Jenna Fisher, who does a really, really good job playing this character. And frankly, I think Pam was written to be the way that she is. I think she was meant to be unlikable and, quite frankly, a psycho. I have a long history with the show. I've been watching it since the premiere of the first episode like a million years ago. And the more times I've seen this show, the more firmly and adamantly I stand by this opinion that Pam Beesly is, quite frankly, possibly the worst character on television. Now, I've heard a lot of opinions about Pam, and I've heard from a lot of people that also are not a fan of her. And there's this idea going around that she wasn't always bad. She was better in the first season. And I believe this a little, but I truly think that she's always been a terrible person. So hopefully by the end of this video, I'll be able to prove to you that Pam Beesly Halpert is possibly the worst character on television.
Pam, on the other hand, is a most unwelcome, entitled, and unfriendly presence in our company.
To be honest, every day I imagine how happy I'd be if Pam died.
I would say that she is misunderstood, and that maybe there's some stuff in her past that you guys don't know about that's a little messed up and probably makes her such a torture to work with.
We hate Pam! We hate Pam!
So,
we hate Pam!
We've established that you guys hate Pam. Do you ever wish she would just disappear?
All right, now I'll admit right off the bat that there are other characters on the show that are guilty of certain things. I mean, Jim Halpert is no saint himself. He's known for doing some pretty crummy things. I mean, even in the first season, it was kind of weird that Jim would constantly flirt with Pam knowing that she's in a relationship with Roy. He kind of goes out of his way and is a little pushy with everything. Now, the show does paint Roy as being a bit of a douche and tries to use that to justify all of this, but I think the real crime of the first couple of seasons is the way that Pam constantly led Jim on and strung him along and just used him to escape her boring job.
I am indifferent to Jim's existence.
There's really not a whole lot to say for the very first season because it's only about 10 episodes. You can start to see the seeds being planted for what's going to come next, and you can already sort of get an idea of Pam's manipulative nature, even though there's not really very many actual moments to break down in the first season. By the time you get a chance to analyze Pam's character later on, you'll be able to go back and look at that first season with fresh eyes and sort of see some of those things taking root. Right off the bat, first episode of season 2, Pam is just an absolute monster in this episode. I'm shocked at how easily unnoticed this was for me the first couple of times I saw this episode. The episode starts off with Pam defacing company property and vandalizing the women's bathroom by writing obscenities about her boss Michael Scott on the women's bathroom wall. Need I point out that although Michael Scott is a frustrating person to be around, he is in no way a bad person, and he treats Pam like royalty throughout the series. She insults her boss to the entire company while defacing company property. She lies to all of her coworkers about it. And then when Dwight tries to confront her and get to the bottom of who was behind it, she insults him to his face in front of everybody.
Okay, now I'm laughing at you.
At this point, Dwight very stupidly tries to ban all of the women from the women's restroom. And what's Pam's response to this? She runs to Michael to complain, the guy that she just insulted. She caused this entire situation, and then she's gonna run back to Michael to try to complain? That's insane. Then she gets shit-faced at Chili's stealing other people's drinks off their tables, makes a fool of herself, and then kisses Jim in front of everybody. She gets hammered drunk publicly because she's depressed about her crappy relationship with Roy, and then she kisses someone who is not her boyfriend. At the end of the episode, Pam shows absolutely zero remorse for what she did to the bathroom wall, what she said about Michael, or any of her behavior throughout the episode.
Whoa.
Class act. The other possibility for Pam's terrible treatment of Jim in the first couple seasons is that she's legitimately just playing off of his obvious affections to make herself less bored at her dead-end job. This being the case is all the more insulting to Jim and just quite frankly morbid of Pam. highlighting just how self-centered she really is. And folks, we're not even getting to the good stuff yet. There's a moment in episode 6 that illustrates this pretty well, when Pam is totally okay roughhousing with Jim. That is until they're seen by somebody else, and then her entire demeanor shifts, and she treats Jim like he's a criminal. So she's okay keeping Jim her dirty little secret, but is always ready to throw him to the side the moment he becomes inconvenient. In the episode after Michael makes out with Jan in season 2, Pam is called into Michael's office for what's supposed to be her annual performance review, but she's instead questioned by a very confused and frustrated Michael about the nature of a call from Jan. Initially, Pam is very forthright with Michael, telling him that the phone call wasn't suggestive of any emotions towards him. But when Michael becomes visibly upset upon hearing this, Pam lies directly to his face, hoping to improve his mood and result in a good performance review. This lie may have been instrumental in furthering Michael's relationship with Jan, the most destructive relationship of his entire life.
That is a $200 plasma screen TV you just killed!
This one moment may have had a potentially catastrophic impact upon Michael, and it was so that Pam could look out for number one. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming that entire terrible relationship on Pam. She may have had nothing to do with it. I'm just going through every possibility. Pam acts totally disgusted when she finds out that Dwight and Angela are dating. Now, I get it. Dwight is a weirdo and a creep, and Angela is Angela. But the two have a very emotional depth and actually have a pretty romantic story throughout the show. So who is Pam exactly to act so disgusted at the idea of Dwight and Angela being together, as if she's the picture of perfection itself?
Ew.
Pam has so many faults that it's just astounding to watch her cast aspersions at two other people's happiness. And it's very clear that she holds herself in much higher regard than both Angela and Dwight. She takes it one step further and actually goes as far as prying into their relationship, which they clearly wanted to keep secret, for the sole purpose of making fun of them.
It's like squishing a spider under a book. It's gonna be really gross, but I have to look and make sure that it's really dead.
She attempts to dig up dirt by gossiping with Phyllis, but is absolutely mortified when Phyllis mistakes this conversation as being about her and Jim. Very hypocritical indeed. I will say that Pam seems to learn her lesson from this and leaves it alone for several years, so I guess I'll give her a point for that. But this is indicative of some of the things that she'll do later on, and it's very clear that she holds herself in much higher regard than certain other people. And while I'm grilling Pam, can I also just say that that was pretty crummy of Jim to invite everybody in the office to his house other than Michael. I mean, Michael Scott worships Jim and Pam. He kisses the ground that they walk on, and they both treat him like garbage. At the Christmas party, Jim is totally stoked to finally get Pam as his Secret Santa. That is until Michael turns the party into a Yankee swap, and Pam turns down Jim's gift for an iPod. I guess it's kind of relatable because Jim's gift was a cheap little teapot, and this is back in 2005 when an iPod video was worth $400 and was the coolest thing ever. But Jim is clearly devastated by this, and Pam doesn't even so much as talk to him.
It's a little too much to handle.
And because she didn't even bother with his gift, she potentially missed out on all the little gifts hidden inside, which were all incredibly heartfelt. I guess she's sort of redeemed by the end of this episode when she trades the iPod back for the teapot, but I'm taking that point away because she only did this after she found out that Roy was probably going to get her an iPod anyway.
I was going to get you one of these for Christmas. I don't have to. I'd save a ton of money.
When Pam is convinced by Jan to pursue art school, she's immediately shot down by Roy, who tells her that it won't lead anywhere. Which, although at the time seemed harsh, actually turned out to be an incredibly astute observation. Jim, on the other hand, is totally supportive of this decision and encourages her to do it, pointing out that she's in a dead-end job with no prospects, which was also a very astute observation. This leads to Pam becoming irate with both Roy and Jim. That's right, she got mad at Roy for telling her not to do it, and she got mad at Jim for telling her to do it. Pam becomes wrongfully infuriated with Angela when Michael reads an anonymous complaint about her to the entire office. She automatically assumes that it was Angela with zero evidence. She even goes as far as to ban Angela from her wedding until Jim confesses to writing the note. Why was he complaining, you may ask? It's because Pam was using office hours to plan her wedding. Not only that, but she was doing it in front of Jim, who was obviously in love with her. By the way, I don't recall Pam ever apologizing to Angela for this. And Jim is of course completely cool about it, and apologizes and actually helps her plan her wedding in the next episode. Simp. By the beginning of season 3, Pam calls off her wedding with Roy, and Roy is clearly destroyed by this, and starts improving himself and doing anything he can to win Pam back. And Pam clearly doesn't give a crap about Roy at all.
We still have to pay for all the food.
At the end of season 2, Jim confesses his love for Pam, and they kiss, and then she rejects him, and he goes and takes a job at a different branch of Dunder Mifflin. While working at the other branch, Jim meets Karen, and they sort of start dating. After that branch closes, Jim goes back to Scranton. When Jim returns to Scranton, he's surprised to find that Pam is single, and Pam is surprised to find that he's dating Karen, who, despite the name, is actually a very nice person and clearly a much better fit for Jim. She's stable, sweet, and quite frankly, just a much better person than Pam in every possible conceivable way. This causes Jim to treat Pam very differently because he's no longer simping for her, and this throws Pam off because she's no longer able to use Jim to distract her from her boring job. Pam suddenly becomes super friendly towards Karen and incredibly supportive. Where did this moment of self-realization and clarity come from? Could it be that Pam was being deceptive and acting friendly towards Karen to get closer to Jim? Kind of like how Jim acted friendly towards Roy to get close to Pam? Is Pam trying to play off of Jim's tactics? It certainly wouldn't be the first time that Pam mimics Jim.
Do you want to form an alliance with me?
Absolutely, I do.
Good. Do you accept?
Absolutely, I do.
After Jim and Karen get in an argument about living together, Pam intervenes and helps Jim. This leads to Jim opening up to Pam and letting her slowly back into his life more and more. Keep in mind, Pam is an incredibly manipulative person, and everything she does has an angle to it. But when this backfires on Pam, Jim actually agrees to move in with Karen, which leads to her becoming heartbroken. Dwight shows his true colors and comforts Pam, further demonstrating that he's a truly good person, unlike Pam, who would spend the next several seasons ridiculing him. The scene is pretty emotional to watch, but in my opinion, the emotion comes entirely from Dwight's incredible sympathy towards a person who would otherwise treat him like filth, and less from Pam's self-destruction. Here we see that Dwight truly cares for Pam and considers her a member of his family and a very good friend, which only makes this next part even more infuriating. By this point, Pam knows full well that Dwight and Angela are dating. In fact, she's the only person that knows this. So I find it incredible that when she has the opportunity to literally save Dwight's career, she does absolutely nothing. Angela tells Pam that Dwight skipped work to drive to New York to file some papers that she forgot to file herself, thus risking his own job to save hers. Pam is the only person that knows about this. When Andy tricks Michael into firing Dwight over this, Pam literally just sits and watches Dwight get kicked out of the building. She makes zero attempt to intervene at all, and even after, she does nothing to try to fix the situation. Pam, who is allegedly the master of manipulation, wasn't able to come up with the simplest lie to convince Michael to not fire Dwight. She was the only person that could have done anything to prevent this. That is until Angela comes forward and saves Dwight's job. So in the episode prior to this, Dwight goes out of his way to comfort Pam, but in Dwight's time of need, Pam does absolutely nothing. She just sits quietly by while he's wrongfully accused and humiliated. For some insane reason, Jim dumps Karen to ask out Pam, which I cannot understand. Unbelievable. It seems like Pam's manipulation finally paid off, and she was able to mentally trick Jim into dumping his girlfriend to be with her instead.
I really hope you get the job.
Thanks.
Immediately after the office catches wind of their new relationship, Phyllis very rudely confronts Pam and Jim while they're eating lunch. She tells Pam that she has to give all the new leads to every salesman in the office, not just the ones that she's sleeping with. Wow, that's really rude of Phyllis to say, right? Wait a second. Do you mean to tell me that Pam was giving all the new leads to Jim? That's like a massive ethical violation and a fireable offense. In fact, how was she not fired for this? That's a question I find myself asking over and over again in the process of making this video. In fact, later on, you're going to find out that Pam's not just a liar, she's a con artist. When Michael and Pam go to a job fair at her old high school to recruit new interns, Pam reminisces about how she used to lie to her PE teacher to get out of volleyball practice and gym class, proving that she's been a pathological liar since high school. It's very disturbing to listen to Pam talk about lying with absolutely zero remorse or self-reflection. And before you go feeling bad for Pam saying, maybe she just really hated volleyball. No, she willfully signed up for volleyball practice. In fact, we learn later on that she attended volleyball camp every summer, and she played volleyball in college. So in other words, Pam was literally just lying to get out of practice whenever she just didn't feel like it. Somebody who lies chronically to get out of slightly inconvenient situations whenever it pleases them, that's a pathological liar. So she lies whenever she doesn't feel like doing something, even if it's something that she committed to doing. At the end of the job fair, Pam runs into Nick, the IT guy, who gives her some information about an art program at Pratt. When Pam lets Jim know in the very next episode that she joins the program, Jim is incredibly supportive, even though that it means that in addition to not getting to see his girlfriend for several months, in the middle of attempting to pop the question, he also has to entirely financially support her as she runs out of money almost instantly. Jim has absolutely nothing to gain from this, but he doesn't care because he loves Pam too much. He just wants her to follow her dreams, even if it negatively affects his own life. Remember that. When Pam gets to art school, she's totally awkward and she can't even figure out where her first class is. 3 months later, Pam fails one of her classes. No shock there. And she has to stay for several more months to repeat the class. Jim is clearly upset about this, but supports her anyway. But because she's unable to deal with her problems, she promptly returns back home to Scranton. She tries to use the excuse that she quit art school so she could be with Jim again, but I feel like it's pretty obvious that she quit because she just didn't feel like retaking the classes. And again, Jim is totally supportive of this the entire time.
Pam, you failed art school? Boom, roasted.
Pam throws a hissy fit when the kitchen microwave is messy, so instead of addressing the situation like an adult, she writes a scathing open letter to the entire office on yellow paper with big black and red font, which of course irritates everybody in the office because it's incredibly smug and condescending. Pam expects everybody in the office to get on board with her obnoxious nagging, but she's shocked to find that everybody actually finds her more smug and irritating than the mess itself. There were way better ways to handle this situation, but of course Pam opts for the option of acting like a 3-year-old. This behavior continues several episodes later when the office is faced with a decision on how best to spend the annual budget surplus. Most of the people in the office agree that the printer is a piece of garbage and the money should be spent on a new one. But Pam and a couple other people decide that it should actually be spent on new chairs. Jim and a few other employees take Michael out to lunch in an attempt to try to coerce him towards buying the printer. Of course, Pam becomes infuriated with Jim for not siding with her on the issue. This is where we get a really good glimpse at Pam's manipulative nature and some of her more snake-like tactics. She dolls herself up with makeup and essentially tries to seduce Michael into buying new chairs. I'd also like to point out that this is literally the nicest Pam has been or will ever be to Michael, because she's trying to get something from him. She's trying to trick him into giving her what she wants. By the end of the episode, Pam acts enough like a baby to finally get what she wants, and the entire office gives in and decides to buy new chairs. If Pam had a brain and dropped the whole Holy War act for 5 seconds, she would have realized that she could have just gone and bought herself a chair for like $100 and then spent the surplus on a printer, and then she would have had both a new chair and a new printer. I keep saying printer, I mean copier. But instead, she throws a tantrum until the entire office agrees to give the baby her bottle and sacrifice a vital piece of office equipment so that Pam can be comfortable doing her useless job. This, of course, all backfires in her face.
Anyway, I'm gonna need 3 copies of each of these, stapled and collated. I'm totally kidding. I'm gonna need 4.
Jim buys an entire house for Pam and even converts the garage into a dedicated art studio just for her. And later on, she actually admits to resenting Jim for this because he did it without telling her first.
He bought our house without telling me. At a certain point, he shouldn't be rewarded for that.
Are you kidding me? That is infuriating. When Pam's parents are having relationship issues, she asks Jim to speak to her father, and immediately after this, her parents split up. Pam automatically assumes that Jim must have said something horrible to her father about her mother, and then suggests that at some point he's going to say the same thing to her. She basically blames Jim for causing her parents' divorce. Does she really think this little of Jim? That he would intentionally say something that would cause her parents to get a divorce? This wouldn't be the first time that Pam makes a crazy assumption about someone and ends up being dead wrong. Here's the real reason why her parents split up.
He said that you told him how much you love me, and about how you've never doubted for a second that I'm the woman you want to spend the rest of your life with. I guess he's never felt that with my mom, even at their best.
There's a moment where Pam talks about how much she hates the idea of someone in the world hating her. Ironic. She mentions that Karen hates her and acts like it's for no reason. Yeah, maybe it's because you sabotaged her relationship with Jim after treating her like garbage and then pretending to be her friend, you smug bitch! Gloves are coming off, Pam. Gloves are coming off! When a salesman shows up to sell the office a PA system for their phones, it's made known that this isn't his first attempt at doing this. This is because every time he shows up, Pam lies to him. Pam admits that the PA system would basically do 95% of her job. Seriously? That's pretty pathetic. She just admitted that her job is pointless. Once again, she tricks the salesman into leaving so she can keep her useless job and continue being a leech on the company. Of course, Jim assists her in this lie because he does everything for her even when it's something terrible. Simp. No question about it, Pam wears the pants in this relationship. Pam treats Jim very rudely when they're trying to give Kevin relationship advice. And this might not seem like a very big deal, but one of the things that I'm trying to demonstrate is that it's not always big things that make Pam so annoying to me.
Well, all I'm saying is it's a first date, so just keep a respectful distance.
Right.
I don't think Jim means to say that you shouldn't touch her.
No, that is what I mean.
Shush. Kevin, a playful touch on the arm or on the back.
Pam is at times death by 1,000 cuts, for lack of a better analogy. It's all the snarky little interactions that she has that wear on me as a viewer. All the rude little interactions that she has with her coworkers demonstrate how little she thinks of them and by contrast how highly she thinks of herself. Remember how because of Pam the entire office wasn't able to get a new copier, something that they desperately needed? Well, eventually they find the money or the necessity to just get one anyway. And guess who they put in charge of setting it up? She does a terrible job, and she treats everybody like garbage. There's a lot to unpack with the Michael Scott Paper Company, so let's just get started. Towards the end of season 5, Michael quits his job as acting manager at Dunder Mifflin Scranton to go start his own competing paper company. Initially, Pam is the only one that follows Michael to his new company. Now, this could be viewed in two ways. Initially, this seems very noble of Pam because it seems like she's the only person in the office that cared enough about Michael to actually go with him. Although I slightly agree with this, that's not to say that other people in the office didn't care about Michael. And I'll just say that this could also be seen as being incredibly impulsive on Pam's part, and irrational and kind of dangerous. It kind of seems like she lets her emotions dictate her decision making. Now that might seem harsh, but it's what she does next that makes me feel justified in such a judgment. When Michael's company doesn't immediately go well, he falls apart and loses hope. Surprisingly, in this moment, Pam is very supportive and helpful and seems optimistic about the company. However, it doesn't take long for her steam to wear off and she completely dissolves under the pressure of the new company and says some incredibly mean things to Michael.
Okay.
How come out of everyone in the office, I'm the only one who went with you? Is it because I'm that stupid? I mean, your own grandmother doesn't even believe in you.
When Michael goes against Pam's wishes and hires Ryan, who I'm also not a huge fan of, Pam begins to act like a baby and causes a lot of negative and stressful moments within the company.
Seriously? Because it sounds like one of those is better than the other.
No, don't take that. Give that back. Go
Give
make
it
the
back
copies.
for what? What are you gonna do with it?
I'm gonna
You're gonna make another spreadsheet. Yeah,
Go
exactly.
make
It's
the
my
copies,
turn.
secretary.
Come on.
Okay.
I'd like my old job back.
I don't know what to tell you. The job's been taken.
Sort of disappeared there for a while. Where you been?
Yeah, I need to take care of some stuff.
Yeah?
That's as specific as I'd like to be.
Well, at least you're still being honest with me.
Mom, I wanted to call you back. He's being a giant bee.
When Michael's company eventually steals enough clients from Dunder Mifflin, they're forced to buy Michael out. Michael makes a deal with Dunder Mifflin that instead of a cash payment, they rehire Michael as well as Pam and Ryan as salesmen. After much complaining from all the other salesmen, Michael's faced with the difficult decision of demoting either Pam or Ryan and keeping only one of them in sales. Initially, Michael immediately chooses Ryan, but of course, Jim intervenes and sways Michael's decision in the other direction. What a surprise. Once again, Jim is there to pick up all of Pam's slack and save the day. Simp. Although I don't have much faith in Ryan, this ends up being a terrible decision as Pam ends up being the worst salesperson in the office and never improves. This is also about the same time that she started wearing pantsuits, just further adding to her unlikability.
Pro for Ryan. He went to business school. He's my #1 choice. Cons, she doesn't always follow through. New York and the whole art school thing. And Roy. I don't think you are being totally impartial, though, because you haven't said one bad thing about Pam, and I won't.
Not long after, it's revealed that Pam received the lowest number of sales in the quarter. I know it's her first try, but this never improves. At one point, Pam begs everybody in the office for money. This is extremely pathetic behavior. I literally couldn't imagine doing this. Was this supposed to be relatable? Because the show kind of presents it like it's supposed to be relatable. It's not. It's just gross.
Is this what I've become? Materialistic? Shallow?
Yes. In season 6, episode 4, Pam goes way over the line and starts making demands of everybody in the office that they cater towards her pregnancy. This is just super obnoxious behavior. This is the same episode where her and Jim get married. I count at least one lie from Pam in this episode when she tells Kevin that her friend is dating somebody. I mean, I get her reasoning, but it's still a lie. Later in the episode, Angela makes a legitimate attempt at being friendly with Pam. And although I know Angela is very annoying, unbeknownst to Pam, I get the feeling that Angela considers her a very close friend. And the fact that she was going out of her way to be friendly with Pam shows a lot. And I really doubt Angela has hardly any friends at all. Pam immediately just shoots her down, and it's very cold. When she tears her wedding veil, she breaks down like a big baby until Jim shows up and makes her feel better. The contrast in both of their behavior is just stark. It's insane to me how much more mature Jim is almost all of the time. In the next episode, Michael begins dating Pam's mom, who he met at the wedding. When Pam finds out, she acts insane. Her behavior is so shameful and embarrassing, it's beyond belief. My natural response is to be understanding towards Pam, because we know how Michael is. But just think about the fact that the entire reason for her behavior is just because of how she views Michael. Pam absolutely despises Michael, and it's very clear in this episode. She acts like a lunatic, and she thinks less of Michael than an earthworm. I know that there are times where it seems like she cares about him, and I think that deep down she probably does. But that is not very clear in this episode at all.
Let me make this very easy for you. I could give a about your happiness. Stop dating my mother!
Michael loves Pam, and he does everything for her, and she hates him. I can't help but think about the time when Michael was the only person that showed up to her crappy art gallery.
I'm really proud of you.
Pam treats everybody in the office like trash when they all point out how unreasonable she's being. Once again, everybody agrees that she's being crazy and she refuses to listen. This is just like the microwave situation again.
I was just wondering, how would you feel if Michael was sleeping with your mom?
My mother's in a wheelchair.
Well, he could still...
When Pam is forced to go to lunch with Michael and her mother, she comes up with this elaborate lie to try to get out of it. Because that's what Pam does best. Anytime she's confronted with a difficult situation, she just lies her way out of it. Because she's a morally bankrupt sociopath and a pathological liar. I really honestly never noticed how much she lies until I made this video. And it's no contest when it comes to other characters. I mean, nobody on the show lies like Pam. Now, I never claimed that no other character on the show does wrong, and I'll be the first to say that Michael Scott is no saint. He is a good man with a good heart, but he is a dunce and does terrible things over and over again. And breaking up with Pam's mom on her birthday at her birthday lunch that he threw himself, that was really terrible. But was it terrible enough to warrant Pam's response?
Holy crap.
I won't entirely disagree with you if you say yes, but in light of all of Pam's other behavior, it just makes me dislike her even more. Frankly, I think she should have been fired for hitting Michael. She assaulted her boss on company property. Yes, I'm counting the parking lot as being company property. This is completely inappropriate, but I can understand her anger towards Michael, but it just seems crazy to me. Either way, when I watch Pam's big, strong hand slap Michael, I can't help but think back towards season 1 Pam, and just wonder how this cute, shy wallflower turned into this pantsuit wearing bitch. When Pam and Andy are forced to do cold calls together for being the two worst salespeople in the office, Pam acts mortified and repulsed when a client mistakes her and Andy as being in a relationship, once again demonstrating how low she thinks of her coworkers. When Andy rightfully retaliates, she calls him an idiot.
Are you kidding me?
Later in this episode, Andy asks Pam for relationship advice for some reason. Pam is probably the worst person in the entire world to ask for life advice, let alone relationship advice, and yet everybody still keeps doing it for some reason. Andy asks her what she thinks of Erin, the girl he likes, to which she responds with,
Huh.
And then when Andy asks her if he can do better, she responds with,
Are you kidding me?
What a sociopath. In this moment, she demonstrates how little she thinks of both Andy and Erin. She holds herself in so much higher regard than both of them. Why? Because she's a narcissist and a psycho. At the beginning of season 7, Pam screws up one of Jim's pranks towards Dwight, which really upsets Jim. So to make it up to him, she decides to play her own prank on Dwight by destroying company property and intentionally sabotaging the elevator, in addition to intentionally destroying company property and likely costing them thousands of dollars. She doesn't even pull off the prank correctly and creates a very dangerous situation for both Dwight and herself, trapping them in the elevator for several hours. Not only was this prank a total failure and completely insane, it was also incredibly dangerous. Pam honestly could have injured or killed Dwight and other people, and she intentionally vandalized company property, something that she's done before. Oh, and by the way, zero remorse. She's proud of what she did, and Jim is completely supportive of her insane, unhinged behavior. Of course. You know, Pam made a really big deal about wanting to be a salesman, and she even took the position away from Ryan, and then she still sucked at it. So after a short stint at being a terrible salesman, Pam commits fraud against her company and fabricates a fake position out of thin air.
I'm the office administrator.
That's right, Pam was so bad at every job she did that she had to create a fake job for herself. Not only did she make up this fake position, but she specifically made one that would allow her to basically just exist in the company and leech off of them for countless years to come. When Gabe confronts her about this massive, enormous lie, she uses manipulation and intimidation tactics to scare him off. She then manipulates everyone in the office into signing off on this fake position. She lies directly to Oscar's face when he asks her about it. She's a complete piece of crap, and I don't understand how anyone can deny it after this point.
I'm full-on corrupt.
After Dwight acquires the property lease for the Dunder Mifflin Scranton office building property, he begins implementing limitations on the office building that inconvenience and irritate everybody in the office, which leads to everybody in the office turning towards Pam, who's now the office administrator, and ask her to step in and solve the problem. I feel like she didn't anticipate this. She probably thought that she was just going to get to breeze by for the rest of her life, but she now has to deal with the issue of convincing Dwight to reduce some of the restrictions. Like every other problem that Pam has ever been faced with, she decides to solve this problem by lying. She lies to Dwight and the entire office that she found a new office building for them all to move into.
She was lying. Oh. Pam.
Yeah?
Pam? What?
I'm Pam.
Oh. No, you're not. We have a colleague with the same name. So.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay. You're not a liar too, are you?
Pam admits to Jim that she lied, and she also admits that she thinks that she's a failure at everything she's ever tried, which is true. When Dwight hears this, he has pity on Pam, and he allows her to win by giving her evidence that he's breaking the law. So once again, Dwight is a good person, and Pam sucks. Pam makes a comic book for Jim for Christmas, and everybody hates it. Of course, Jim loves it. Pam makes a comic book for Jim for Christmas, and everybody hates it, except for Jim, of course, because he has to like it. It was pretty good. It was good. I would have appreciated getting that for Christmas. She tries to make a New Year's resolution board for the entire office, but it fails miserably.
That's it.
When Daryl's grandmother dies, she gets everybody in the office to sign a card for him, which everybody mistakes as being a birthday card. Ugh, come on. Like, can she do anything right? Can she do anything right? At the beginning of season 8, the office gets a new boss, Robert California, and he's literally a genius. And the first thing that he does is he makes a list of all of the winners and losers in the office, and he puts Pam in the loser column. Yeah.
I think that is astute. Good call.
At one point, Pam gets super insecure and assumes that Jim is attracted to the new girl, Kathy, so she recruits Dwight to spy on Jim. Throughout this entire episode, Pam is incredibly immature and acts like a child, again. And she even forces Jim to take a lie detector test to prove that he's not attracted to this new girl. And the entire time that she's forcing him to do this, all that Jim cares about is his children. And it just really shows that Jim is the rock of this relationship, and Pam is more like a feather. When Pam gets pregnant for the second time, she uses her pregnancy as a way of lying to the entire office over and over and over again to get out of situations that she doesn't like.
I'm going into labor.
Should I have corn dogs? I mean,
I'm going into labor.
Okay, 3 reasons you are wrong about True Blood. Number 1.
I'm going into labor.
Towards the beginning of season 9, Jim and Pam go to Roy's wedding. It turns out that his life just took off after him and Pam broke up. And he's like super rich with a beautiful wife and like a big house. Like everything just like took off for Roy once he broke up with Pam, and I find that very funny.
Gotta dodge the bullet on that one. Just kidding.
You're welcome.
So we find out in season 9 that Jim had planned on starting a company with his best friend years and years before, and that company is now starting to actually become a real thing. So when his friend spearheads the company, he asked Jim to put in some stock so that Jim can be a partial owner. So when it comes time for Jim to actually buy some stock in this new company, he feels the need to hide this from Pam for fear that she's going to get super angry at him for doing this, which I think says a lot.
I started a new business with my college friend, but Pam doesn't know. Actually, I did tell Pam, and we decided no. But then I decided yes anyway. So I'm thinking there's a conversation. It's hard to know what.
He literally has to keep this a secret from her because he's afraid that she's going to act like a psycho. So he starts having to make all of these little deals and phone calls behind her back, which obviously she notices. And her immediate assumption is that he's cheating on her. Because what else could it possibly be, Pam? That's her automatic go-to assumption, is that... So we're learning 2 things here. Jim has to keep his life decisions secret from Pam. Good decisions that would benefit him and his family, for fear that she's going to act crazy. And we find out that whenever Jim keeps a secret from Pam, her automatic response is to assume that he's cheating. We've seen a pattern with Pam of her making wild assumptions about people with no evidence, including her husband, and she always goes to the worst possible scenario. It shows how little faith she has in Jim that she would automatically assume the worst possible thing about him. When Jim finally comes clean with Pam and tells her that he invested $10,000 in his new company, she acts like a complete psycho. So his fears were totally justified. Keeping it a secret from her was justified. And keep in mind that, first of all, $10,000 is not that much money to put into a brand new company. If you wanted to start a company, $10,000, that's reasonable, okay? Also, it's probably mostly his money that he made himself, because he has been making more money than her for years. The whole situation with Jim's new company, it lasts throughout the entire final season. So I'm going to pause on that and we'll come right back to it. So there's this whole situation where Pam takes it upon herself to go down to the warehouse, and she decides to paint a large mural on one of the warehouse walls. I find it really funny how people are constantly suggesting that Pam's a mediocre artist, because she is.
Pam failed art school.
Oh. Wow. Doesn't surprise me.
Excuse me?
Have you seen her painting, Jim, the building? There's shadows coming from 2 different directions. What? Are there 2 suns?
She's not terrible, but her art can be an eyesore. And the fact that she took it upon herself to go into a warehouse and paint all over a wall, where these people have to work all day. She came into their office space, basically, and starts just painting what this really, mediocre mural. And there's a couple of moments during this that stood out to me. Okay, first of all, we've got the Japanese office worker Hide tells her, your art sucks. And she just straight up turns around and she just says,
"Shut up, Hide!"
I mean, it's just ridiculous behavior. She's so arrogant. She's so high and mighty. It's unbelievable. It's crazy to me the way she talks to people. And this is supposed to be okay. Anyway, the whole situation gets completely out of hand. Eventually, one of the warehouse workers gets really fed up with Pam's crappy mural, so he vandalizes it, leading to Pam losing her mind, trying to get everyone else in the office to come together to get him fired. She lies to the entire office, saying that David Wallace asked them to hold a secret meeting, and then when nobody wants to help Pam other than Dwight, she goes and vandalizes the warehouse worker's truck. So after Pam vandalizes Frank's truck, his name's Frank, he obviously becomes extremely mad and he runs out and tries to attack Pam. I'm not siding with Frank. It was wrong of him to deface Pam's mural. It was wrong of him to try to attack Pam, obviously. But once again, Pam created this entire situation. She doesn't ever consider what other people want. She doesn't ever consider what other people think. It's just Pam's world. So when she makes this guy lose his mind to the point where he feels like he needs to come out and actually like harm her, the cameraman that she's been flirting with for years comes out of nowhere and defends her, which results in him getting fired. So basically, you follow the chain of events. Pam just got 2 people fired for her actions because she is completely self-centered. She created another situation that harmed other people's lives. Does she care about any of this? No, she doesn't have any self-reflection or introspection. She doesn't look back and realize and reflect on herself. She actually just feels justified with everything. So the crew guy, Brian, who she has been flirting with, who gets fired, all he cares about is Pam. And so when Pam shows up at his house, she treats him like garbage. She doesn't care that she lost him his job at all. She doesn't care. Because of Jim's new company, he's forced to work in Philadelphia. So he asks Pam to record their daughter's ballet recital. So Jim asks Pam very clearly if she's sure she knows how to record the video on her phone. This is clearly very important to Jim. He doesn't want to miss his daughter's ballet recital. So she has a huge attitude with him about this, and she swears she knows how to use the phone. But when it comes time to actually record the ballet recital, she screws it up and she doesn't know how to record. This causes a huge argument between Pam and Jim, where she admits basically that she doesn't want him to go start this new company.
I don't know, Jim, maybe you should have been there.
Jim and Pam work at a failing paper company in a dying industry. Jim is trying to follow his dreams, and he's trying to start a new company that would benefit his entire family, that would allow Pam to probably not have to work anymore, that would allow them to be very fruitful and very wealthy, and also allow him to pursue his dreams. And if we just look back on any of the times where Pam wanted to do something, wanted to follow her dreams, it's nothing but support from Jim. It's nothing but positivity. Now that Jim wants to follow his dream of starting his sport company, Pam is she's completely selfish. She's completely self-centered, okay? Jim is trying to do something that would only benefit his family. He's trying to follow his dreams, and he's frankly just being a badass. He's making moves. He's making something happen in his life. He doesn't want to be stuck in a dead-end job for the rest of his life. Pam, on the other hand, would rather keep herself and Jim at a dying company in a dying paper industry, which would not help their family in any way and would ultimately result in catastrophe, frankly. In the midst of everything Jim's going through and trying to start this new company, he goes out of his way and actually finds a job for Pam in Philadelphia so that they can live in the same place. Pam immediately turns this job down.
And I can't.
Later in that episode, at dinner, she admits to Jim that she doesn't want any of it. She doesn't want his new company. She doesn't want to move to Philadelphia. She's completely 100% thinking about what she wants and not anything else. She's not thinking about her children. She's not thinking about her family. She's not thinking about what's best. She's literally just doing what she wants because she's terrified of change. She's terrified of moving forward. Any kind of change, even if it's good. By the way, when she turns down the job that Jim probably worked really hard to find for her, she lies to him. She tells him that she didn't get the job.
Jim, I should have told you I didn't get the job.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. You all right?
And I get the feeling that no matter what job Jim found for Pam, she would always turn it down because ultimately she really just doesn't want to move to Philadelphia. She doesn't want Jim to follow his dreams. Towards the end of season 9, Jim and Pam start couples therapy. And I just want to reiterate that none of this would be happening if Pam wasn't such a psycho. She makes Jim's life so unnecessarily painful. It's just amazing to me that she would treat him this way after how good he treats her anytime she's ever wanted to do anything. Pam confides in Nellie and starts complaining about Jim. She complains that Jim didn't tell her about his new company, but there's just one problem. He did tell her about the company, just not at exactly the time she wanted, and for good reason. She acted exactly how Jim thought that she would.
It's not even real yet. And I'm not gonna tell her until it's real.
It's during this conversation that she literally admits that she doesn't want Jim to start the new company. She even admits that it would be good for their family, and she just doesn't want it.
I'm sure Athlead will be a huge success. But I don't want him to do it anymore, and I don't want to give him an ultimatum, but I am not moving our family to Philly.
All of this leads to Jim literally quitting his company, going back to Scranton, to his failing job at a failing paper company, just to make Pam happy.
And I think we'd all love to know, Pam, what romantic thing did you do to pay Jim back for leaving Athlead?
Well, I mean, how do you pay back someone for something like that? But I don't know, I'm working on something.
She pays me back every day just by being my wife, so that's fine.
Eventually, finally, Pam comes to her senses and I guess feels guilty enough about destroying her husband's dreams that she sells their house and helps Jim get back in with his new company. All right, well, that's pretty much it. Hopefully that was enough to convince you. Frankly, this is just how I feel. I think that Pam is an insufferable liar and sociopath. And I think I made that pretty clear, but if you disagree, that's fine. After so many times watching this show, these things just wear on me as a viewer. I just notice these things more and more and more. And every time I see one of these moments from Pam, it just becomes more frustrating and annoying. And I think the most annoying thing about it is it's the complete lack of self-reflection. It's the complete lack of responsibility, of the way that she's never able to admit that she was wrong, even when everybody is telling her that she is. And she's completely unapologetic, even when she knows that she was wrong. It's crazy that she just gets away with all of these things. She got away with lying to her company over and over again, lying to everybody, defacing the company, vandalizing things, committing fraud over and over again. It's just amazing. The thing is, even a supervillain is supposed to be bad. Think about the fact that on Michael Scott's last day in the office, Pam left to skip work to go see a play. She lied to Michael's face and told him that she had some business meeting to go to on his last day.
Hey, Michael, I'm just gonna go to Carbondale to price some shredders. I'll see you later.
She lied to Michael to skip work. I mean, that is fireable and intolerable behavior. And she just gets away with it over and over and over again. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me in the comments. Tell me if you hate me. Tell me if I'm right. I'd love to hear. Either way, I would love to hear what you think. That took a pretty good amount of work. I had to watch pretty much every episode to collect all that information. So, all right. See you guys.